Good morning. It is NTI Day 3 on January 21st. This is for my honors classes. All right, so we've been practicing multiplying and dividing rational expressions and adding and subtracting rational expressions. So today we're doing some of each. So we're going to start with our multiplication division. So remember, when you guys are multiplying and dividing, number one thing, we need to rewrite it. So remember, the fractions that are multiplication, the first two we can just copy. So I'm going to copy this. Times x squared minus 5x plus 6 over x squared minus 4. So now we get to the division. So remember, it's copy. We copied everything before the division sign. Then we have to change our sign to multiplication. Ooh. Change our sign to multiplication, and then we flip our fraction. So our denominator is now our numerator, and our numerator is moved to the denominator. This is the reciprocal. So once it's all multiplication, then we're just factoring. So in our first fraction, we know we can take out a greatest common factor of x. And then we will have x squared minus 64 all over x minus 10. All right. So now I know that I can still factor this numerator, that x squared minus 64 is a difference of squares. We can take the square root of both of those. So I know the square root of 64 is 8. So we're going to have x plus 8 over x minus 8. And again, our denominator is already factored, so we don't have to do anything there. So now we're going to move on to our second fraction. We have a trinomial in the numerator, so we need to factor that. So this is where we use our x puzzle to help us figure it out. So we have our 6 in the top and our -5 in the bottom. So we're looking for two negative numbers that add to -5 and multiply to 6. So that's going to be -2 and -3. So we know we have an x minus 2 and an x minus 3 in our numerator. Our denominator is another difference of squares. We can take the square root of x squared. We can take the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So we know we're going to have x plus 2 and x minus 2. So now we're going to factor our last fraction. They're both trinomials. So again, we're going to start with our x. The last term, the first term times the last term is a -20 for the top of our x. And our middle term is our -8. So what factors of -20 are going to add to give us -8? So we know we're going to have one positive number and one negative number that are 8 apart. The only two numbers that are 8 apart are 10 and 2. Because our number in the bottom is negative, we know we're going to make our 10 negative. So in our numerator, it's going to factor as x minus 10 and x plus 2. Now we need to factor our denominator. Again, we're starting with our x. In the top, we're going to have 24. In the bottom, we're going to have a -11. Since the top is positive and the bottom is negative, we need two negative numbers that add to 11. And that is -8 and -3. So our factored form is x minus 8 and x minus 3. Remember, this is the shortcut. If you are still struggling using the shortcut, by all means do the x puzzle and then go straight to our boxes and do the greatest common factor. It's not any different. It's just one more step that you have to do if the shortcut is confusing you. All right, so now once we have everything factored out, it's looking for what can cancel. So I know that we can cancel our x minus 10s. We can cancel our x minus 8s, our x minus 2s, our x minus 3, and then our x plus 2. So the only thing we have left is in the first fraction in the numerator, and we have an x and an x plus 8. So this is our solution for our first example. Remember, if you have any questions at all, you're welcome to email me anytime with your questions. All right, let's go ahead and look at our second example of adding and subtracting fractions. So this particular example is subtraction. Remember, in multiplying and dividing that we just did, we did not have to change denominators. When we're adding and subtracting, you have to have a common denominator. So the first thing we need to do is see what they have in common. To do that, we need to factor our denominator of our second fraction. So in our x, we're going to have a negative 40. In the bottom, we're going to have a 3. So we need one positive number, one negative number that is 3 apart. That is 8 and 5. Because our 3 is positive, our bigger number is going to be positive, and our smaller number will be negative. So this factors as x plus 8 and x minus 5. So our common denominator is going to be x plus 8, x minus 5. And our first and second fraction have x plus 8 in common. So our first fraction, we are missing that x minus 5. So we're going to multiply by x minus 5 over x minus 5. So when we do that, we need to distribute that 3 to both terms. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 15 is negative 15. And then here's where the common mistake happens with subtraction. This subtraction has to be distributed to both terms in the numerator of the second fraction. So it's minus x and then minus 2. Now we need to combine like terms in our numerator to simplify it. So we have 3x minus x, which is 2x, and we have negative 15 minus 2, which is negative 17, and then we're bringing over our denominator. And our numerator cannot be factored any further. So this is actually the solution to our problem. 2x minus 17 over x plus 8 times x minus 5. All right, you guys practice your assignment. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for you all afternoon. You have a great day. Stay warm.